Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. We've been covering a bunch of class changes over the past few weeks for the patch 11.2, which is releasing oh so soon, and as our coverage draws closer and closer, we only have a handful of class specs to cover, one of them being the class of Monk. On the channel, we've done coverage of the tier sets arriving with 11.2, which is some of the coolest tier sets I've ever seen. Instead of giving us a class bonus or a spec bonus, instead Blizzard is giving every single class and spec 2 tier sets to pick from, one for each hero talent of your choosing, which by itself is very wild, but the implications of this are massive as it allows for a lot more build crafting going forward into Season 3, with a lot more options and customization when it comes to trying to make your best build for the season. For today's video, I wanted to really dive into the tier sets for the class of Monk, taking a look at how Windwalker, Brewmaster, and Mistweaver are affected by hero specs such as Master of Harmony, Counter Celestial, as well as the Shadow Pan, taking a closer look at all of the tier set bonuses. As always though, if you guys want to see more regular class guides once patch 11.2 releases, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe, but otherwise, let's dive right in. So the first thing we take a look at when it comes to the Monk set is the visuals. Off the bat, I'm going to say it, I don't think everybody is going to enjoy the Monk tier set look. I think it's unique, I think it's nice, but there's a number of players that see the mask look, and they automatically assume that that looks like a rogue set. I can kind of see it because what I've noticed is there's some monks out there that believe that the classic look will be someone with this like a big saucer hat, or anything that has this like very Yulon, or the Crane or Zuan or New Azawa vibes and like color schemes to them, like how they try to do the Gatecrasher set, which was supposed to be a New Azawa set that has this like very samurai helm. There's some players that love the fact that they do something different like this, like a very Pandaria set, but then there's players out there that believe that you should just do saucer hats for the rest of eternity because they look really good. Don't get me wrong, they tried some saucer hats, they tried some other stuff, they really messed around with the different visuals for the Monk sets. I do enjoy this one at the end of the day. I actually think this set in particular, I don't hate it at all. Another thing I like about the set, I actually kind of like the tusks in particular, just for orcs, I think it just looks super fitting, just having these tusks around the mask at the same time. I like it a ton. I also really like the recolors the monks are getting. Maybe LFR, not the craziest, because it's just basically like dark green, but then you have the normal, which I really like that red and a little bit of this white going on, or gray. Then the heroic, I really like the color schemes here. Mythic also looks good. The PvP set, we got ourselves the what looks like reddish pink for the elite set, as well as a pure black and white look going on with a little bit of like dark greenish for this set. I think color scheme wise, they did a really good job with monks. I feel like every other class usually gets some kind of like an ivory or some kind of a blue or red and a green and a bronze maybe, or yellow. And they usually just repeat those colors across every single class in the game. But for monks, I feel like they went for an interesting and a different color palette for their sets, so to make them stand out just a little bit differently from everybody else. But yeah, I think there's going to be a number of players that will look at this set and will be like, this looks like a rogue and doesn't really feel like a monk. So you can't really satisfy everybody. I personally think it's a pretty cool set. I like the tusks in particular, but I know that this is just not going to be everyone's favorite. However, what may be your favorite are the tier set bonuses, as they are actually quite strong. Some of them build on the given hero talents, but not in a crazy way. They're very like self-explanatory to some degree. And then there's of course the Master of Harmony, which doesn't do that at all, but still is probably going to be a very powerful bonus as long as everything is tuned correctly. And it looks like things were maybe doing really well, so they're going to be doing some more tuning in the future. Off the bat though, I do want to start off with the Shadow Pan playstyle, because that one I think is the easiest to get into. Share between Brewmaster and Windwalker, this one just ends up being fairly passive, but also very effective. Now the brain mechanic of the Shadow Pan for Brewmaster and Windwalker is to do damage in order to build up charges of flurry strikes. Every time you spend energy, once you reach a cap of 240 energy, you get to unleash all those charges of flurry strikes, dealing damage per charge. And every time you unleash flurry strikes, you get the capstone to activate Wisdom of the Wall, where every time flurry strikes, which is basically you're always going to be able to hit that 10 cap, every time you flurry strike, you get a buff of Wisdom of the Wall that lasts for 16 seconds. It can either be a buff where critical strike damage is amplified by 30%. Dodge and crit chance is increased based on your versatility. Flurry strikes can deal additional shadow damage, which is actually quite significant damage, or the effect of a mastery is simply amplified by 25%. So this playstyle in general ends up being pretty strong on its own, so the main gameplay loop is to do damage, spend energy, get flurry strikes to proc Wisdom of the Wall as often as possible. And their tier set allows them to do that in spades. For the Windwalker, the tier set reads, Flurry Strikes deals 20% more damage, and activating Storm, Earth, and Fire instantly grants you 10 stacks of Flurry Strikes that triggers on your next attack at 70% effectiveness. This allows you not only to deal damage with Flurry Strikes, but also to activate a mastery immediately. The set reads, Flurry Charge generation is increased by 50% to make sure you're guaranteed 10 stacks of Flurry Strikes every single time. This is actually very important because the tier set also allows Flurry Strikes to trigger at less energy. I believe at like half energy than normally, or actually exactly at half. So normally as a Windwalker you need 240 energy, but this cuts it down to half, so you only need to spend 120 energy to proc it during Storm, Earth, and Fire. So basically during your major cooldown of Storm, Earth, and Fire, you get to unleash Flurry Strikes more often, which deals more damage, but also you get to benefit from your capstone from Wisdom of the Wall a lot more regularly, which allows you to obtain the buffs of the Wisdom of the Wall a little bit more aggressively. Because now I'm able to roll a buff here, while also rolling a buff here, and then as I'm using my ability of Tiger Palm and try to spam it as much as possible, you'll see an overlap of Wisdom of the Wall here and Wisdom of the Wall here, and I still have a bunch of Flurry Charges available for me to be able to spam them out back to back to back. Outside of this though, Flurry Strikes also grant you agility, which you can maintain for a longer period of time, since you can spam it back to back within like a short interval. So getting agility for 5 seconds becomes something that you could prolong during your burst window. Energy spenders also help reduce the cooldown of Storm, Earth, and Fire, so you can actually get the ability back a little quicker to feed you even more Flurry Charges overall. So it's a playstyle that just kind of feeds into itself fairly regularly, allowing Windwalker to output quite a significant bit of burst damage as a Shadow Pan. For Brewmaster, this doesn't change things any differently. You're still going to be able to deal a lot of damage, also able to unleash your Flurry Strikes at half off in terms of the energy you must spend. This is going to give you more output from Wisdom of the Wall, which does have defensive benefits like increasing dodge or increasing effects of mastery, which does give you defensive bonuses. Increasing agility from against odds also does increase survivability as a Brewmaster, so that is helpful there as well. And Brewmaster gets to use Keck Smash fairly regularly, which is another ability that can spend energy. You don't just have to be Tiger Palming constantly, so you can actually get through your energy fairly rapidly as a Brewmaster. And with them going for a playstyle that doesn't even pick up a Breath of Fire, you are able to spend a lot more time Tiger Palming to spend that energy fairly aggressively. Though for them, the cooldown reduction element is going to come from Weapons of Order, and their version of tier set is going to proc from Weapons of Order specifically. So being able to reduce the cooldown of Weapons of Order means you can use it a lot more regularly, which is also another defensive and an offensive, as it does increase your mastery, so that's increased survivability, gives you more uses of Keck Smash. And also, Keck Smashing and using Rising Sun Kick during that window does increase your damage done as well, so it's also quite a sizable burst window for you to use pretty regularly. With some of the changes that Brewmasters have gotten, you can now actually use your New Zawa, otherwise known as Dave, in order to be not only more effective when it comes to the damage that he could do, but he's also a more effective defensively as well. He also has some crowd control capability for Brewmaster in things like Mythic Plus, and with the playstyle of Weapons of Order, you can now also guarantee summon New Zawa whenever you use Weapons of Order, so you actually get more uptime on Dave, which has a bunch of different defensive and offensive benefits for Brewmaster. So I think it just helps out Shadow Pan in a really cool way. Some cooldown reduction, aggressive uses of the capstone and the Flurry Strikes, but also some slight defensive components, even if not directly through Shadow Pan. At least it does create some opportunity for more defensiveness for Brewmaster specifically. Next, we have Conduit of Celestial tier set, which is going to mostly amplify Heart of the Jade Serpent trait. It is just a very focused tier set that amplifies a very specific point or a talent point within the hero talent tree. Heart of the Jade Serpent allows you to invoke Yulon to give you massive cooldown reduction recovery rate for abilities like Fist of Fury, Strike of the Windlord, Rising Sun Kick, Flying Serpent Kick, Whirling Dragon Punch, but also the channel time of Fist of Fury for Windwalker is reduced by 50% while Yulon is active. You can invoke Yulon by either using the ability of Strike of the Windlord, or whenever you invoke Celestial Conduit, because with the capstone you're able to invoke all Celestials at 200% effectiveness, so you can basically roll that cooldown reduction fairly regularly. The tier set builds off of it further by allowing Heart of the Jade Serpent to additionally proc from a bonus ability, able to proc for 4 seconds at 100% effectiveness after you cast Slicing Winds. So now you have a number of ways for you to be able to give yourself a little bit more cooldown reduction. Normally, you're able to do it through the actual ability of Conduit, and once you channel all of your conduits, you'll have that massive cooldown reduction from Jade Serpent. Again, using Strike of the Windlord also gives you cooldown reduction, so you can use abilities like Fist of Fury fairly regularly with quite a bigger impact. And now if you're able to bank up a couple of resources on your Windwalker, using abilities such as Slicing Winds also activates it for a few seconds as well, giving you more uptime on some of the harder hitting abilities as part of the monk kit. And that cooldown reduction element is actually pretty massive in terms of just how much raw damage you can do as Conduit. Being able to give you an extra way for you to proc that window is also going to be very, very helpful. The tier set itself, the 4 set, further increases the effectiveness of Heart of the Jade Serpent, where while the buff is active, it now also increases your haste by 4% while active and for 4 seconds afterwards. Windwalker has gone a long way when it comes to scaling with your secondary stats. So for them, haste scaling means direct, I guess it's actually this channel point here, direct damage scaling for your Fists of Fury in particular. So being able to land a massive Fist of Fury that now scales directly off of haste is also going to be massive, but also having that Heart of the Jade Serpent further reduce the channel time of Fist of Fury so he gets all of his damage in a much faster window, allows you to push out more damage much quicker. As for the Mistweaver Monk, the playstyle of Heart of the Jade Serpent is slightly different. It now procs from Shaylun's Gift, not from for Mistweaver Monks, Conduit of the Celestial Yulon buff, Heart of the Jade Serpent, procs from Shaylun's Gift, which draws upon Yulon to give you a cooldown recovery rate for Renew and Miss, Rising Sun Kick, Life Cocoon, Thunder Focus Tea by up to 8 seconds based on how many clouds you were able to consume from Shaylun's Gift. So for them, like, the more clouds you can get from Shaylun's Gift, the better. So you can actually get a longer duration or a short duration. It's really up to you. There's a little bit of freedom to it. But for them, it gives them big cooldown reduction for some of the basic abilities, whether you're playing a healer build or a Fistweaver build or like a Castweaver, whatever you want to play into. It gives you a cooldown reduction for a number of great abilities. The tier set further allows Heart of the Jade Serpent to proc for 8 seconds at 100% effectiveness whenever you cast Thunder Focus Tea, which is just another way for you to be able to prime the buff of Heart of the Jade Serpent. Thunder Focus Tea is also pretty often used in order to extend Renew and Miss, so you'll usually pair it together with the Renew and Miss. So for a lot of monks, you'll actually, I think, will get a lot of value out of Heart of the Jade Serpent, since this is something that you'll actually use fairly regularly together. And the 4 set also does give you a 10% increased haste buff, which is also really, really nice when it comes to overall being able to get through rotations a little bit quicker. And lastly, we have the playstyle of Master of Harmony, which feels like their tier set is probably going to be really strong numerically, but it has like the least interaction with the hero spec in particular. So the tier set reads, the 2 set reads, gaining vitality has an increasing chance to cause your next Tiger Palm to unleash a harmonic surge, dealing 1.6 million damage split between your target and other nearby enemies, and doing some healing on up to 5 injured allies. The first set reads, casting your Celestial Infusion, or T if you are a Mistweaver, will cause your next 2 casts of Tiger Palm to have a guarantee to give you the proc of Harmonic Surge. So what Harmonic Surge does for a tank Brewmaster, it deals a ton of damage. Like a lot of damage. So if you pull up the damage build with the details, for example, you can just see how hard this ability can hit. It's a lot of damage. It's very, very hard. And I've been trying to figure out, like, I usually look at these tiers from a tank perspective of how does that increase the survivability of a tank? And I can't think of Harmonic Surge in terms of how does it make a tank more effective. It just deals a lot of damage. It has some healing components, sure, but like the actual healing output it could do in dungeons from logs, it's just not that high. So I've been trying to figure out like what does it do for Master Harmony to make it more tanky, and it seems like it doesn't necessarily do anything special. Master Harmony is already fairly tanky for Brewmaster because it gives you an extra charge of Celestial Brew, which is fairly strong on its own, but the rest of the kit just focuses on, for Brewmaster at least, giving him far more damage from Master Harmony. Not necessarily making them tankier in a way, but just gives them raw damage through that nature damage of vitality. And the tier set itself doesn't necessarily make you tankier, it just makes you hit a lot harder. Like, significantly harder. It's a very hard hitting ability, it has a lot of uptime, but it doesn't necessarily do anything to make you tankier as a spec. I guess the playstyle of Master Harmony on its own does do that by itself, but I'm just not used to the tier set really impacting the tankiness of a tank whatsoever. And for Mistweaver, Master Harmony tier set isn't really all that different. The tier set allows you, whenever you gain vitality, has an increasing chance to cause your next target pump to unleash Harmonic Surge, dealing small amount of nature damage, but a lot more healing split amongst allies. And casting Thunder Focus guarantees that your next 2 casts of Tiger Palm will trigger a Harmonic Surge. So for Mistweaver, you get basically a very similar situation where, yeah, the playstyle itself is just a proc, mostly for healing, but I guess there's also a little bit of a damage component with it as well, where Harmonic Surge can do a decent bit of overall damage. But what you're primarily looking for is the Harmonic Surge AoE healing that it provides, which is a solid number, and if it's tuned correctly, it could potentially just be another way for you to be able to deal a bit of that burst healing while you're stuck in melee with a free Tiger Palm. But the rest of the set itself doesn't actually like interact with the Master Harmony playstyle in any shape, way, or form, which to me just makes it feel like it's like the most disconnected tier set out of all the ones that I've seen so far. Because at least some of them at least try to interact with the rest of the kit in one way or another, in some simple ways or some complicated ways, but this one is just like, it's just an additional proc on top of what Master of Harmony provides, but it doesn't necessarily like impact the rest of that kit. So I think this one will come down to tuning, whether it'll be good or not. And if they can tune the tier set correctly, then potentially this tier set could do a decent bit of overall healing or damage if you're playing Brewmaster. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching and hope you guys did enjoy this update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Also, be sure to join our Discord for this last minute patch 11.2 class tuning and changes, as well as any guide updates, as we'll be doing some class guides over on Discord as written guides as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.